All right, everybody, welcome back to another week of NFL picks. Back to a 500 record through these 3 weeks, so that's nice. Although it does come with a bit of a caveat because if I had known Lamar Jackson was out, I may have picked that game differently. That line would have moved. I got that line at a bad number, and I mentioned how much fluctuation that line had on Saturday. But ultimately, I come up short. Maybe a reason for doing something you guys have suggested. A lot of you guys have suggested putting a pinned comment with my final picks in the comment section right before game time once the injury reports are official. That maybe I'll do that, but then it's tough because you got to do so for the 1 o'clock window and the 4 o'clock window and all this stuff. So I hate to mix it up on you guys. Pick one in the video, pick another in the comments, and then claim I got it right. So it's a lot. A lot goes into that. It's a little more complicated than I want it to be. But nevertheless, we're back again. We're going to say it's a 500 record, even though that Ravens game would have been a lot different. Even if I went with a different book on Saturday, it would have been a lot different. Nevertheless, let's get into our picks this week, shall we? And we're doing the Thursday games because I had said before that I wasn't doing Thursday games and I wouldn't do them this year because it's, like I said, the lines move so much and injuries pop up and COVID happens to so many players and so many things can change. But this week, with Thanksgiving coming up, the holiday, with all the other, elements of there being 3 Thanksgiving games, all the travel that's involved, I figured that since there are more games on Thanksgiving this week, I'll pick the Thanksgiving games, and everybody loves to put a little money down on Thanksgiving, have a little fun. And I'm going to give you some Thanksgiving props, too, because last week, first week doing prop bets, 2-1 on props. So we'll take that. So here's 3 more for you. All Thanksgiving, because we want to add to the Thanksgiving fun. We're going to start things off with Hunter Renfrow over 52.5 receiving yards. A little bit of a high number for Renfrow. The way he's been playing recently, started off the season hot, has tailed off a little bit recently. But I think the Raiders are going to break things open with their backs against the wall, teetering here a little bit. Falling out of the playoff picture a tad. So I think they're going to try to break things open. They're going to try to get Renfrow more involved, try to spark the passing game back up again. So I think Renfrow over 52.5 receiving yards, maybe the most controversial of the prop bets that I'm going to pick here today, because the other 2 to me are easy. Zeke Elliott, anytime touchdown scorer. I believe that is minus 138 if I have that number right. To me, that is, I'm taking that all day long. That is a great bet. Ezekiel Elliott, I feel like, getting that at minus 138, especially on Thanksgiving. He loves to do the Zeke eats, hop in the kettle, whatever it is. Zeke Elliott, I feel pretty confident about him scoring a touchdown in this one. The Cowboys, them playing on Thanksgiving all the time, they're just going to love that element to things, and they're going to want to get him in the end zone. So I think minus 138, good number on that. I'm taking that. I think that's nice. And then the other one I'm taking is going to be Mark Ingram anytime touchdown score. And now Mark Ingram, that's plus 110. And I think it's a little bit of the same thing with the Saints. I think even though they struggled last week against the Eagles, I think they're going to try to get this run game back going a little bit again. I really think that Mark Ingram is going to find a way to find the end zone. It's another one of these guys that I just feel it. I feel it with it being Thanksgiving and, wanting to, again, eat yards on the ground or whatever. I think Mark Ingram is another one of those guys that you have that desire to get him in the end zone on that day. And I think he's going to find it that night. So I know these are more of a little bit of a feel thing than anything else, but I like those last 2, Mark Ingram and Zeke Elliott to score. I'm hammering that one. I think those 2 are pretty solid. So those are the prop bets for this week. 2-1 last week. We'll see how we do this week. Into the games, which everybody wants to talk about. First up, Chicago, Detroit. Chicago -3, opening up at -3 over Detroit. Detroit, again, has played a lot of games close this year, almost broken through a few times. Now, Cleveland, they played pretty close last week. Chicago, a little bit banged up. And believe it or not, I'm going to take Detroit +3, not only because they played people close, I feel like they're getting closer to that win. And I just don't think Detroit's going to go winless this season. I don't think they're going to have another 0 season. They had the tie, of course, earlier this year too. So I feel it coming for Detroit. I think they've actually improved in these last few weeks quietly. So I think Detroit +3 on Thanksgiving, actually sneakily kind of a good bet. And I think they take home the win in this one. I would even take them straight up. But I'll take the 3 points in this one. That's all I have to do. And Detroit. Las Vegas, Dallas. Dallas -7.5, -8 in some places, but I'll go with -7.5. I'm going to take Las Vegas. I know they've struggled here recently, but that I feel like people are moving away from them because they've fallen off a little bit. This is a team that started the season hot, and I really feel like they're going to get back on the wagon. That offense should start moving a little bit again with Waller, with Renfro, all those guys, with Josh Jacobs. And I think this is actually a pretty good Raiders team. I still believe that. So plus 7.5 on Thanksgiving, I'm going to take that. I think it's going to be a close game. Buffalo, New Orleans, Buffalo -6. Buffalo hasn't been playing as well recently, but I still, even though they lose last week to the Colts, they get killed by the Colts. And of course, the Jaguars thing, a lot of people are going to be off Buffalo. A lot of people are going to be off the side of Buffalo. Any other circumstance, no one would have expected this line to be this low. So I think you're taking advantage of a really good situation here where Buffalo's kind of tailed off a little bit. They've left their foot off the gas, and now you're getting a low enough number against New Orleans. I say you pounce on that. I'm even going to go as far as to say it's a lock. I know Buffalo's been struggling, but I still think this is a good football team. I think people are sleeping on them, and I think you're getting this at a really good number. So I'm taking Buffalo -6. New England, so we're done with the Thanksgiving games. On to the Sunday games. New England, Tennessee. New England -6. I'd love to take New England -6. Unfortunately, I can't. I think that, again, it's the same story with Tennessee. People are getting off Tennessee's scent because they lose to Houston. They don't have Derrick Henry, all this stuff. I still think Tennessee is too good to give them 6 points against the Patriots. So I'm taking Tennessee +6, and I'm calling that a lock. The Texans and the Jets. Houston at home, favored by -2.5. This is a stay away if you've ever seen one. This is just two bad teams going at it. If you have to pick this one, I'm honestly going to take Houston -2.5. I don't feel great about it, but I feel like they have the better quarterback no matter who the Jets throw out there, tied with Tyrod Taylor. So I'm going to stick with Houston. Houston -2.5, I'll take it. But going forward, the Philadelphia Eagles going to New York to face the Giants after they fire Jason Garrett, and Philadelphia favored by -3.5. Philadelphia has been playing a lot better. I'm going to take that 3.5. Their running game is looking really, really solid. They look like they're going to be a potential playoff team. So I'm taking Philadelphia -3.5 and not thinking twice about it. Tampa Bay -3 over Indianapolis. Another one I'm not thinking twice about. Indy is getting some momentum from that last week. I think that you really have to take advantage this week, especially, of these lines moving around because of the way that some things have gone last week. Jonathan Taylor explodes. Now all of a sudden, Tampa's only favored by -3 over Indianapolis. I'm taking that. I'm taking Tampa Bay -3, 1,000%. Tampa Bay's vulnerable on the outside, not on the inside. Their vulnerability is the passing game. Of course, Michael Pittman's out there, so you have to be mindful of that. But it's not as if the Jonathan Taylor and the Buccaneers defense is a disaster waiting to happen. The Bucs are vulnerable out there, so I don't think the Jonathan Taylor stuff should be a huge detriment to them. So Tampa -3, yep, absolutely going to take that. Thank you very much. Atlanta -1 over Jacksonville. This is another one where Atlanta's been playing so bad that it's kind of hard to pick this one. It's kind of a stay away, but I think Cordell Patterson probably misses this game as well. He was a game time decision last week, but he should be out multiple weeks. So I'm going to go ahead and take Jacksonville +1. I think they pick up a win here. I think this is one of their rare wins. Carolina, Miami, Carolina -1.5. They're playing well with Cam Newton. Keep riding with Carolina. I think this line's too low. I think Carolina's a good team. I think Miami isn't. So -1.5. Jumping on that. Thank you very much. Cincinnati -4.5 over Pittsburgh. I'm going to jump on Pittsburgh in this one. I think this is, again, a situation where Pittsburgh loses last week, but they come back. They show some things in that fourth quarter against the Chargers. Cincinnati wins last week. A big win over the Raiders. That offense looks electric, but I still think that Steelers defense is going to be able to take advantage. They didn't do great last time they played Cincinnati, but they're going to take that team more seriously than they did the first time around. Trust me on that. So the Steelers, I'm going to take them +4.5. I'm taking those points. Chargers, Denver, Chargers favored by -2.5. I'm going to take the Chargers, riding that momentum from last week. I think Justin Herbert's finding himself back in a groove. Denver's in a weird spot right now. One of the Chargers' strengths this year has been the secondary on defense. They're not allowing wide receivers to float too much on them. The Chargers have sneakily been one of the best defenses against wide receivers this season. If you're just looking at it from a fantasy football perspective, they've allowed the second fewest points to wide receivers, and they're really attacking third wide receivers in these offenses. Like, you might see two of these wide receivers go off as has happened in recent weeks, but that third guy doesn't. And this offense in Denver is built off of these three wide receivers, the three-headed monster with Judy, Sutton, and Tim Patrick. So I think the Chargers actually have a favorable matchup in that sense. The Chargers -2.5, especially if you're getting into that number, I'm taking that. Moving forward, the Minnesota Vikings versus San Francisco 49ers, San Francisco -3. I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings in this one. This is a game where this is going to decide which one of these teams is actually a playoff team, a playoff competing team. And I just like Minnesota better. I like their offense better. I think their defense has shown things. I think they're a more complete team. I think they have the better quarterback. So I'm going to take the Vikings with the +3 in this one. I think at the very least it's going to be closer. Next game up, we got the Rams and Packers. Packers favored by -1. I'm going to take the Rams on the road against Green Bay. I think Green Bay falters a little bit here. I think, look, Green Bay's defense played great against the Seahawks, but they only put up 17 points. And then they're competing neck and neck with the Vikings last week. I think Green Bay's in sneakily a little bit of a bad way. So I'm going to take the Rams. I think they're the better football team. I'll take them +1. A lot of underdogs we're taking in this one. We'll see if it pays off. Baltimore -3.5 over Cleveland on Sunday night. Lamar Jackson should be back. I think that's the plan at least. But I'm going to take Cleveland +3.5. I think that this is going to be a close game. I think Cleveland might even be the better football team. And I think that division is extremely close. So I'm going to go ahead and take Cleveland in this one, +3.5. Even though the Browns barely beat the Lions last week, which is maybe why this line is as big as it is for the Browns, I still think that this team is going to figure it out, and they have a lot of talent there on offense, and the Odell thing hasn't affected them too much. So Cleveland +3.5, I'm taking that. And finally, Washington, Seattle. Seattle getting +1 on the road. And I'm going to take the underdog again. I'm taking Seattle +1. I just think with Russell Wilson versus Taylor Heineke, you can't expect me not to take Russell Wilson. But that is it for this week's picks. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Have a great one. Getting back over 500, getting things start off right to the right start, getting the prop bets, everything like that. We're going to get things going in the right direction. And these last few weeks, we've been picking the momentum up a little bit. So thank you all for tuning in once again, and we'll catch you next time.